Welcome. I'm Louis Armenta DeLombre, and we're going to be talking about graphic design, how to get into it, all the steps I recommend, and things I don't recommend. I got 30 plus years in this industry. What we're looking at right now, I'm going to put it up on the screen, is a wrap that we did using traditional graphic design, meaning that, you go to school, you learn the fundamentals, and this is a program that I teach. Exactly what you're looking at here. I teach you how to design this wrap and all the steps to prep the files to get it printed and then to get it ready for your installation. So it's a whole process that we go through, right? And then we move into this vehicle here. This is a vehicle that I designed using AI, right? So when AI came out and early on it was a little janky in certain areas when it came to generating designs. But once it got to a point where I was like, okay, you know what, maybe I could work with it and we could print it out and we could do large format printing. And thank God I was blessed with the owner of this vehicle, Wayne, and he requested a graffiti urban style wrap. And I was like, that's down my alley, right? If you're familiar with my work, my range is wide when I could go from, corporate all the way to urban. And that was a perfect fit when it came to trying, and working with AI, right? Seeing what we could generate, making it look as realistic as possible. And it had to fall into something that I knew that I could create with my own hands, right? I started off as a fine artist, really good with the number 2 pencil still. I still paint, from time to time, right? Love those mediums. So it had to be something that was familiar and something that I knew that I could deliver, right? And yeah, so I took AI and I used it, and the outcome of it, we won an award for it, best rap. So I documented that whole process, and then I brought that on board to our program where I teach now traditional graphic design and AI infused graphic design, with the idea of still using graphic design as your foundation. I believe that if you jump straight into AI as a designer, there's great room for failure, right? Because you don't know the fundamentals. And we're going to cover that. And I really believe that you need to learn that base and that foundation so you can build on top of that and be successful as a graphic designer working in the industry, right? Because your ideas are generated from human to human, right? That's what we look for. And to have that magic touch of, of moving each other, whether it's spiritually, emotionally, that's what we look for, storytelling. I have my notes over here off to the side, and you're going to see me look at them every so often. I don't want to be rude, but that's the only way that I'm going to stay on point. Now, these are the 10 levels we're going to cover. Level 1, artist and storyteller. Level 2, traditional graphic design. Level 3, printing services and merch. Level 4, photography and videography. Level 5, digital design and marketing. Level 6, AI infusion. Level 7, teamwork. Level 8, monetization. Level 9, self-promotion. Level 10, build your empire. Each one of these levels we've traveled. I don't believe we'd be great teachers and guides if we haven't gone down those roads. Now, if you stay to the end of the video, you're going to come across our special features where we talk about our origin story and a great lesson my mother taught me when I was relatively young. And I believe that it'll speak volumes to you if you're a working artist or you're trying to get into this industry. Don't forget to visit us at LearnGD.com. Head over to the About page to learn more about Louis and Heather. We'll see you on the inside. I know a lot of you are probably here because you want to know whether or not graphic design is an industry that you should get into. Will it be there or be here tomorrow, right? Because of AI. Right? If you're familiar with AI, it's really swept the industry. However, if you stay for this whole video, I truly believe that you're going to come to a conclusion to realize that the industry is still really, really alive, and there's still great opportunity for anyone that's wanting to get into it, right? And as I take you through the levels, I suggest you don't skip ahead in the video because every level builds on top of the other one. And like I mentioned, when we get to the end of it, you're going to see it's a beautiful, beautiful place to work in. And it's not easy. It does have its moments that are rewarding, but it does have its difficult moments. First level was artist and storyteller, right? That's there's three areas that I focus on when I teach. It's traditional graphic design, AI infused graphic design, and storytelling. I believe that design and storytelling go hand in hand with each other. It's a wet with the water. And in order to be successful in one area, you need to be successful in the other, meaning that you should use both, right? Successful graphic designer, I believe it begins with the story, right? And if you know and you understand graphic design, we communicate through story, a visual story, right? We call it visual communication. And when we look at what we do, that's how we get our message across, right? Some of us use just visuals, other of us will use visuals along with words, and you just need to know what's going to work and what message you're trying to tell, right? And I believe that it starts with storytelling. Now, I created a playbook slash workbook, and if you head over to the description area in this video and you click on the link, it'll take you over to it, and you could just download it, and you could use that as a reference in what you want to do when it comes to what we're talking about right now. Again, it's graphic design, AI infused graphic design, and storytelling. So it covers everything that we're talking about here, and it expands it, right? Now let's jump into our level 2. Level 2 is a traditional graphic design, right? So we have traditional graphic design versus AI driven design, and meaning that traditional is the visual communication, right? You learn the fundamentals of design, your fonts, your colors, your images. Um, Two other things that I'm really big on is your math, learning your measurements, and your English, right? And for us as Americans, our primary language is English. So I truly believe that you need to focus on that and master that, because you need to know proper spelling and the meaning behind words, right? And their impact, right? Because you could have a slogan. We see that in the political world. There's slogans, and sometimes they're just one word, right? There's like that one word that will move you, or that slogan that'll move you, or will make you question things when you're familiar with the power of language, and what kind of weight certain words carry and how words have evolved, right? And you understand the impact that they could have on a person or the masses, right? And ultimately, you want to move the masses in a positive way, or however way you're trying to sell. And proper spelling, I that's something that, when we're in school, we're taught, and this was since, Mr. Fortenberry, when we were in high school, he was really big on spelling, and, during which we learned towards the end, he also taught English. I always wondered, God, like my mother's a wordsmith, right? And I used to tell her growing up when I was really young, I was like, my mom, like, I'm an artist. I don't need to know words. Like, and once I hit high school, and I had Mr. Fortenberry, he was really, really big on the way we spelled and what words we were using to push whatever we were designing, right? Because mind you, at that time we were doing, or at least I was doing work for like the faculty and certain like people within the school, right, and other businesses. So like everything had to be like perfect, which yeah, of course, right, because you're doing like a few thousand runs of a certain item. And yeah, and later on to find out like he also taught English. So I was like, oh, no wonder you're like really big on that. And you fast forward to today, and I mean, you send out concepts. You have a concept, and it's for design, but you think the client is gonna spell check everything that's on there, right? But I can't put that on the client, right? Because it starts here with me. And you're familiar with design, you're always going to be held responsible, period. That's just the way the industry is. It's like, I do car wraps, and, if the wrap isn't laid correctly, well, it's on the installer, right? But ultimately, the graphic designer get blamed for it, right? Always remember KISS, keep it simple, stupid. It's just an acronym that you use. Less is more, right? More white space, and it just makes your artwork stick out. But if you know me, and my work, I just, we're going to get into that and into breaking the rules, but I like things loud. I like things bold, and, I like things just to stand out, and I believe it's the way you get remembered, right? So, and then we're going to move into working with clients, right? You need to know what questions to ask and follow-up questions, right? Think about a late night host or someone like Larry King, like really amazing when he would ask questions. But like you could go to AI and have AI generate like 10 questions for you, and you could ask those 10 questions. But the key thing are the follow up questions for every main question that you have. That's where people are successful, right? So you got to look at that from a graphic designer's point of view. It's like you need to know what questions to ask and what follow up questions to ask. And the more you do it, the more you're gonna understand. But there's certain things that are just like if you're laying out something and if they don't have a branding kit, then you want to ask them, well, what colors do you want to use, and what photo is the main photo you want to use. Little things like that, man. Like and you need to know the client's needs, corporate versus small business. Like I mentioned before, corporate will have their kit ready to go, and and it's good because it guides you on the design, right, when it comes to their branding. And it just basically, if you're not familiar with the branding kit, it just tells you how to use your logo, where to place your logo, what not to place around their logo. If it's a logo that has a badge and it has a word, maybe the badge goes first and then the word, but you can't take the badge and place it on top of the word. So it'll lay things out like that for you. They don't want images underneath the logo, and it just their colors, like they'll give you like their CMYK for print, and they'll give you like their RGB or the web colors depending on what you're gonna do, right? So you can't move from that. You gotta stick to that, which is amazing. I find that really really helpful. But like if you're like, oh, I'm a graphic designer, I got into this business to express myself and do whatever like I want, and you know what? Most of the time, I would say like 90% of the time, you're gonna be disappointed because you're not getting hired for you to express yourself. They already have an idea in what they want and how they want it. They just want you to execute it. That's it. Maybe you could bring a little bit of creativity to the table, but if you think you're gonna be like the god and you're gonna just go in there and say like, yeah, I'm gonna get this dirt and I'm just gonna mold it the way I want. I'm gonna breathe life into it, and yeah, you're wrong, buddy. Um, Now once you have that down, I look at finding yourself, right? What I mean by finding yourself is like you learn the rules and you break the rules, right? I did that when I designed our car wrap, but that was because I wanted to show you to what limit you could go corporate wise, and where you could break that and start designing something that moves you, right? Like what's your passion, and you could bring that through your graphic design. Now you need to know the trends, right? You hear that a lot, but you really need to find your style, right? One thing is like trends come and go, right? You don't want to get stuck in that, like you're just like the trendy person. It's cool, right? If it works for you. But successful graphic designers, if you're familiar with them, you look them up. They have their own style, right? They're known for something, right? And some people look at it and say, okay, you know what, like they're just repetitive. They do the same thing over and over. But if it ain't broke, why fix it, right? And if it works for somebody, then go for it. I'm big on having a range. But if you find something that works for you, then you would use that. You could have a range, like you could, like growing up in the 80s 90s, we would say like, don't bite me, don't bite my style, right? It was more of a, excuse me, more of a like a graffiti style, right? If you had a certain look when it came to like your lettering and maybe your characters or the colors that you use or how you use them, you would say like, that's my style, like don't bite my style. And yeah, so you wouldn't go and you wouldn't jock their style, right? Like you'd have to come up with your own thing. But once they were known for that, like you could see anywhere, and it was like, oh, dude, that's so and so, right? They didn't have to put their name. Like you could just do like they could bust something cool, and you would know exactly what it was. Now, once you find your style, you could develop your range, right? And that's basically having a variety of styles, but it still has like your look to it. It still has your flavor. The only thing I could liken it to, so you could understand, is like an actor, right? You have successful actors like Daniel Day-Lewis. If you're familiar with his work, like Gangs of New York, he did Lincoln, and what was it? There Will Be Blood, I believe. And but I mean, he's an amazing actor, right? And his range is incredible. Like when you see the movies, it's like you get lost in whatever he's playing. You don't see Daniel Day Lewis. You see the character that he's bringing to life, but it's still Daniel Day Lewis. So that's what I mean by having like a range. Like people will know who you are and the work that you're creating, but if it's in whatever medium that you're using or whatever business that you're looking at doing the marketing for, right? And the more you do it, the more you're going to develop and you're going to find yourself, right? Um, like myself, like what I'm all known for and what I like doing is using a geometric style, right? Meaning shapes. And I really attribute that to like three things in my childhood, like growing up. And the first is like my mother and my grandmother. They were really big on everything being perfect, right? Again, like my grandfather worked in the entertainment industry and my grandmother worked in the fashion industry. And I say that a lot because I'm proud of what my grandparents accomplished. Uh, and my mother worked alongside her father and her mother. And a lot of the time when I was young, my grandmother ran a boutique out of our house in or their house in the Silver Lake Hills, and a lot of her clients were in the entertainment industry, right? Because that's my grandfather got her the clients, and my grandmother did the fashion. They worked as a team. We're gonna get into that as well. Um, so we would take a lot of trips to the fashion district in downtown Los Angeles. My mother and my grandmother and myself, and yeah, so I spent a lot of time in these huge factories, right? And I was blessed because I was, allowed to go through the clothes and I would, touch the fabrics. I would look at the patterns of the clothing and just the design. And I got to meet like the owners and stuff, really chill. So that was something that I learned, right, from like my mother, my grandmother, and everything was like perfect, right, from the top of their head to the soles of their feet. Like everything had to be, you know, perfect. And, whether it was color matching or the jewelry they were wearing, their hairstyle, to the glasses, to the purse they were carrying with themselves, and just everything was really, really beautiful, right? And my mother, to this day, my grandmother, she passed away, and she's happily on the other side. A lot of like what I'm saying is that like you'll find yourself based on like what you love to do and how you do it, right? Like that's just, and you just have to let it happen. Like it has to happen organically, right? And then when it does happen, like you're kind of like you're surprised, like, oh wow, I didn't know that I could create that, right? Portfolio. Portfolio is one of those things that when you're in school, I remember being in school and they're like, you need 5 to 10 really strong pieces. I was like 5 to 10 pieces, and I've always wanted to work. Like I want to work, and I love business, right? I love art. I love art. I love storytelling, but I always love the business part of it, right? Like how are we gonna make money? And I figured, dude, by the time I get like 5, 10 designs, I'm like how many people are gonna take business from me? But I learned that you need one. You really need one. And going back to that GM Cadillac design that I did, um, I nailed it. I it was just a God given situation, and I nailed the design, and I took that one brochure tabloid, and I just used it as um, my way of spreading the word and saying, what, this is what I do. This is my design, and this is I could print it, right? This is the quality of the print that I could do, and I just kept pushing it, and I got it out there to the world, and it got me so much work, right? It was crazy. It was like, and it was just that one piece that I kept using over and over and over. When you go to school, it's like you need like this, and you can't have this over here, and I was just like, I designed something, I printed it, I stuck it onto the sheet that I was gonna slide into the portfolio, and that was it. That was like, and I just used that, and I just went around. I'd meet somebody, I'd pull it out, and I was like, oh, this is what I do. And it was like, cool. And then, we'll get into the digital part of it. But yeah, and you got to understand that it's bigger than design. You need to be passionate. You really have to look at it and say, okay, what, do I have a passion for this? Because when you're passionate and you love what you're doing, it's like I mentioned early, when we started this, you're gonna have clients that are really difficult, that are really, really difficult, and they suck the life out of being a creator, being an artist. And But when you love what you do and you have that passion, like you'll see beyond that. You're gonna look at the finish line and you're gonna be like, okay, you know what? I got this. I understand that it's gonna be hard right now, but I'm going to finish it, and the payoff is gonna be amazing. A little disclaimer on these next two. I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not a doctor. Uh, so what I'm gonna talk about, go talk to a lawyer about this, and go talk to a doctor about this. But we're gonna cover law and design. And from my experience, I've had projects that I put out, and I've had lawyers hit me with cease and desist letters and or emails. And it doesn't feel good. Right? It doesn't feel good. All I know is that I had my contracts right, and whenever I do a project, I'm filming somebody, I'm doing audio, whatever I'm doing, uh, make sure they sign a contract. That's what I do. It protects them, protects me, and we just go about it, right? Because it's pricey, and if you're kind of like, oh, I'm not gonna imagine certain people that I can't mention any names, but I did work for, and we worked on these projects together, and I knew them for a while. I knew their family and all of that, and they still turned around and got lawyers on me. And I turned around and I got my lawyers on them, but it's something that I felt like we didn't have to do all of that, right? And it's whether you're entertainment, fashion, automotive, they're pricey. They're really, really pricey. However, I'd rather just go to a lawyer first and just tell them, exactly what I do. Like, let's say I do graphic design, I do printing, I offer photography and videography services, right? And can you write me up a contract that covers that? And I could present it to a potential client, a customer, and have them sign it, and it'll protect me, protects them, like I said. And then you're on your way, right? It's better to do it early than find yourself getting sued, and you're going to find yourself in a really, really expensive spot, right? A lot of times it could really destroy your business, and you may not be there tomorrow, right? But once again, I'm not a lawyer. Go talk to a lawyer. And I'm not a doctor. So when we talk about health, a lot of times, like, we don't talk about certain things that our body goes through as graphic designers, right? If you're familiar with working long hours at a computer, it takes a toll on your body, right? It really takes a toll on your body. You feel it in your back, you feel it in your neck, your arms, your wrist, your hands. Excuse me. You start cramping up, and you gotta stand up, you gotta walk around, and some pacing here and there, stretch, squats, calf lifts, little things that you could do, right? Like, and I do that. I have weights that are right next to the computer, and I do my weights here and there. I'm not saying always, obviously, right? You're looking at me like, come on, bro. But yeah, it's something that you really need to take care of yourself, because once you do it and you find yourself getting up there in gears, and it don't feel good no more. You're kind of like, man, I gotta rest here and there, and but take care of yourself early on. So printing services and merch, this is level 3. When it comes to printing, it's a great way to build your bundles, right? The only issue when it comes to printing, and you got to always remember this, is that you always want to have test prints, right? This is something that I get into, and I teach my students. Like, I'm like, don't mess this up, right? Because to share really bad experiences with you, I had designed this car wrap. It was for the holidays, so it was red, right? It was red and green. And I looked at the files, and everything looked very peachy in Illustrator and Photoshop. And I prepped the files, and I sent them out, and to the customer, and the client sent it out to their printer, and they just ran them. Like, they ran the print, and it wasn't like, okay, you know what, just small spot graphic on a vehicle. Like, the whole vehicle was wrapped in this design. And I get a call, like, late night and early morning, and they tell me, Louis, the print came out pink, right? It's supposed to be red. I was like, oh, dude, come on. I was like, all right, like, what, let me prep the files but let's do a test print this time. And they were like, no, but we already installed it, right? They had, wrapped the vehicle with the pink. And I don't know if they thought like it wasn't gonna look pink, but yeah, sure enough. And I was like, you know what, let me go down there. And yeah, as soon as I walk into the shop, the car looks mighty, mighty pink. I was just like, wow. And it was like a hot pink, mind you. It wasn't like kind of pink leaning on red. It was like a hot pink, like a highlighter. And yeah, so you gotta pull it off, you strip it off of the vehicle, and we had to print again. And it was red this time. And yeah, so that was a learning experience. And so and this was another vehicle, like it was supposed to be black, right? What happens is that when you're doing colors, like for print, we have what's called like a color shift, and your blues could go purples, your reds could go pink, and your black, if you don't go for like that rich black, will go like a grayish purplish, and it looks real mudded. It's really ugly black that you'll get. And yeah, and this happened with that vehicle. And yeah, sure enough, like, and that one, I'm telling you, man, like I did a test print, right? And I took it to the shop. I left the test print there. I laminated it so it, wouldn't fade in the sun or wherever they're gonna use a doggone print. And I'm still they didn't run a test print on their end with their printer, and it just turned into a mess, man. And time is money again, and I lost, and it wasn't cool. Like it wasn't cool at all. And I was mad. Hey, you get mad at certain things, and but as a graphic designer, it's something that you gotta eat. And yeah, like if you have um contract, right, and your contract clearly says, like you got to do a test print. And yeah, they got to do it. And it is something that, like, okay, like I do work for customers or clients, whatever, that are outside of Los Angeles. Like I'm LA based, like Hollywood based, and we do a lot of work for companies that are outside of just California, right? um uh One we did, let's say Florida, we did one in Florida, right? And it was for a vehicle wrap. And while I'm working with them, and I'm telling them, what, do you have a shop that you're working with? If not, I'll find you a shop that's near your business. And yeah, so they had a shop, and I was like, okay, cool. You know what? And I sent them the files, and then I sent a paper email clearly saying, you know what, you need a test print, and once you have that test print, you got to take a picture of it and send it to me, right? I mean, I'd love to have them mail it to me. You could get to that level, right, and say, okay, you know what, you got to mail it to me. But I was okay with just them taking a photo and sending it to me. Yeah, they did that. They got the test print, they took a photo of it, they sent it to me, and I was like, all right, cool. It looks good. You guys, the owner's happy with the colors, and he was like, everything was perfect, and they ran it. Right, cool. Now, if they tell me, you know what, we don't want to do a test print, we're just gonna run it, then it's like, okay, it's on you guys, right? Like if you're gonna go about it like that, know that if it goes wrong, and I already gave you the warning. As a designer, a lot of times we put out work for print, and just different. You could have the same model of a large format printer, right? You see like a Roland, and their colors are off. Like I've had that. Like I send the same file to a print shop and then my installer, and because like the installer doesn't have time to run it on his printer, we'll send it to the print shop, and they're different. Like they just it's like this huge color shift. And yeah, so it's something that you gotta look into when it comes to printing. But let's jump into the actual services that you can offer. Right now, this is a way of building your bundles. Right, it's multiple revenue streams. So you have essential printing. Your essential printing is your business cards, your letterheads, your envelopes, and your brochures. We talk about this a lot, where it's like, is printing still something that you should be offering, right? Because we're living in a digital age. But there's businesses still use those essential parts. Whether you're dealing with a real estate company, a dealership, they still use that. Entertainment industry uses it. And so yeah, it's business cards, right? You're out there networking. Yeah, you could trade numbers, but here's my business card. Right? Your letterhead, your envelopes, you mail that out. Brochures, maybe you're promoting something, right? You have something that you want to leave behind. Then we have offset printing, right? Offset printing. is your it's printing that's done on a press, right? You have digital printing, which is like short runs. Like we used to offer like digital printing, which is anything from like 25 pieces to like 100, right? Once you hit about like 250, that's when it gets kicked up to like your offset printing. That could be like your brochures, your business cards, and bookmarks. Once again, once you head over to the link in the description, download that playbook, and it has all this in there. So you know you want to launch your business and you want to start offering printing services, that is there for you as well. And you could see everything on the screen is that you can offer when it comes to offset printing. Offset printing could be 4/4. 4 meaning you're dealing with 4 colors: your CMYK, that's your cyan, your yellow, your magenta, and your black. Your black is, you use a K for black, not because you don't want to get mixed up with blue, but it's K because when you run presses, it's your key color, right? So K is for key. And, but yeah, that's for printing. You also have like 4/0, which is like only full color on one side and nothing on the back. Sometimes you could do like 4/1, which is like one color. You could do either the cyan, the magenta, yellow, or black on one side, and then the other side will be full color. And sometimes you do 2/2. So you get it, right? Then you could offer promotional items, right? You have automotive items. You could offer awards, backpacks, badges, holders, and there's a bunch of other things that I'll include in there that you can offer. Automotive items, think of it when if you ever bought a car, a car at a dealership, right? And you go in there and they give you like a tote bag, and within the tote bag it has like stickers and as like a tire gauge to check the air on your tire, but it has like the dealership logo on there and the name of it and like contact information. So it would be like promotional printing that you can offer. And then we have like large format printing, right? Large format printing could be anything from like movie posters. When you go into a theater, you got these big old posters. That's already like large format printing. Banners, car wraps. So anything that is beyond like your tabloid size, or yeah. So uh, there's I'll include other items you would offer within large format printing. Then you have merchandise. Your merchandise is like your t-shirts, your hoodies, and sweaters. And when you get into this, is like when you find that printer that you're using, you want to make sure that they have like a QC, quality control. Because I remember when we ran, it was like early on when we started offering like merchandise, and I was trying to help somebody because they were, they had their little business, and they just made a disaster. And we ran so many tops, man. It was like insane, and it was just, I don't know, it was just bad, and we lost big time there. And it's not like you could turn around and tell like your client, wow, you know what, we'll do a good job next time, right? Well, next time they're not going to be there. And you have enough clients that get out there and start spreading a negative word about yourself and your business, the quality of your business, then you're going to start losing customers, right? Or potential customers. Now, so just to recap, level 3 of printing services and merch, we have essential printing, you have offset printing, you have promotional printing, large format printing, and merchandise, right? Yeah, so you could go over that. Level 4 is photography and videography. I mentioned how Heather got into it, and for us it was beautiful because obviously, like, we were boyfriend and girlfriend, and we became she was my fiance, and then we got married, right? But we were that team, right? We're that team, and when she was doing the photo shoots and I was there doing the art direction, right? And we'd go over the project beforehand, and we'd sit down and we would choose whether it was going to be studio location, right? Now, before I get into that, so the photography and the videography, again, is to build your offer stack, right? We're going back to the multiple revenue streams, right? So we're doing graphic design, you're offering, then you're moving into offering printing services, and now you could offer your photography or videography services, right? And I'm going to tell you how to use this where it's really linear and really easy to talk to your client about this, right? So when you're doing photography or videography, you have two options, right? You could do a studio shoot or you could do a location shoot, right? Studio, when we started, it was just out of our home, right? We had our living room. It was a good sized living room, so we were able to push back all the furniture and set up all the lights. We had the muslin, and we had what is it? The solid curtains, the blackout light curtains, and where just you wouldn't get sun into the room. Or if you wanted to shoot with natural light, because a lot of times we would block out only a part of the living room, and then we'd leave the other windows open, so we had that cool natural light coming in from one direction. So you had like kind of like that glamour Hollywood look, like a noir type film, and so we would do that, and we'd work out of the studio. So we would offer like both, right? The studio, depending, let's say we're working with a musician, so we would do a studio shoot and then we would do a location shoot, because we were like in the Silver Lake Hills. We're kind of like in the what do you call it, like the center of the creative world when it came to LA, right? So there was like all these cool spots that we could hit, right? We're really close to the east side, we're really close to Hollywood Boulevard, we're close to downtown. So it was easy for us to say, okay, we're going to shoot at this location. And when we're talking to somebody, we'd say, okay, let's drive over to this location. And so we'd all like meet up in one spot, and then we'd do some shots there, and we'd move over to another one. And then again, we offered it to the entertainment industry, the fashion, and we do automotive. Automotive would be like your publishing, right? Like if we'll get into this, like a magazine or e-magazine. We launched our own e-magazine / we did hard copies, but then we moved it into just an e-magazine. Real estate, right? You're doing real estate. You're going out and shooting photos of property they're selling or they already sold, and they want you to design some postcards that they're going to send out to a certain neighborhood. I'm trying to find other people that might want to sell their home or looking to purchase homes, right? So you would shoot the house, and then you design the postcards, and then you print out the postcards, and then either you could take them to the post office, mail them out for them, or you hand it over to the realtor and they do that themselves. So you're making money on the photography, on the graphic design, and on the printing, right? So you're just stacking, right? You're offer stacking. So let's look at entertainment. This is where this is where the fun is, right? So when we would offer the entertainment when it came to the photography, so Heather would do the photography, again, studio or location or both. And then I would run the photos through Photoshop to create a contact sheet. And once that did that automation, then I would tell them choose 10 photos. Excuse me. I would tell the client just choose 10 photos, and those are the 10 photos I don't want to touch up. Those are the 10 photos we're going to use for, let's say we're doing the CD, for the inlays, for the trade card, and for the digital, like say for Apple Music. And from that, then we would do the promotional. We're going to use 10 photos, one of those photos for promo, right? Whether it was for their posters, their flyers, maybe merch. I would also design the logo. So Heather would do the photography. We do the contact sheet, turn that over to them. They would choose 10 photos. I would touch up the 10 photos, and then I would turn that back into them. Once they approve that, I'd get them back, and then I would start the design process, right? If it's a CD with inlay 4x4, meaning that it's a half fold, right? So there's 4 panels, and so it folds on each other, right? And then you have a tray card. Some would get a 4x4 full color. They would do the outside of the tray card, and there was an inside. And some would just do the outside because you have the CD, right, that's sitting on top of there. And you would design the actual disc. And once that was done, then I would turn in the concept. And while they were doing that, then I would start working on the promotional stuff, poster, flyers, merch. And once I got back whether they said this is perfect or they wanted changes, then I would get that back, make the changes, and send over the promo and the merch concepts, right? So it's a back and forth thing. But again, remember, it started off with the photography, and then we moved into the graphic design. And once everything was approved, we would press everything out. We had our large format printers, and then we also had CD and DVD pressers, right, or disc pressers, and you could find that to this day, right? You could go out there and find it. Majority of the stuff now is digital, but at that time, it just showed you that what we were able to do and we were able to grow. Today, instead of like pressing the album, you would do the design still for like say Apple Music or just any streaming service, right? Whether it's video or audio, you still would have those same principles, right? If you could do the photography, you would shoot the photography, right? And you would use that, just like I mentioned before. Now, because it was both of us, right? Heather would take care of the photography, and then I would do the videography. While she was doing the photos, I would do the video, right? And the video, once that was done, we would chop it up and use it as promotional material for the musician, right? Or like what I would do is if there was a little bit of time, I would talk to the musician and say, okay, you know what, let's cut a quick video talking about when your album's gonna release and where is it gonna stream, basically, like what is it gonna, are you gonna offer hard copies, or is it just gonna be a digital stream? And yeah, so if we had that time, and we would shoot that and real quick. And sometimes it's like you don't, yeah, you're getting paid for everything, but if you could offer something real quick, it's only going to take you maybe 5-10 minutes to shoot that. Don't say, okay, you know what, now you got to pay me for this. It's just something that you can hand over to them. It's going to be fast, right? And people really get happy with that, right? They're like, oh, you care about me, you care about my career. Now let's move into level 5, digital design and marketing, right? We got to look at transitioning from print designer to digital designer, right? This is like your UX, UI design, user experience, user interface. For myself, it was, I was doing print, but I was also doing like websites. So it wasn't like difficult for me to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to go from print and transition to like digital. And so it was like just smooth for me to say, okay, I'm going from websites to MySpace, right? At MySpace, no matter what anyone says about it, for us, it was like really good for us because we use it for our business. Like we weren't doing parties or going to parties or anything like that. At that time, I would create flyers and I would slap flyers up on MySpace, and you could post on people's walls or whatever that was called, right? And yeah, so I use that. And a lot of the clients that we have today, they're like what we call like our MySpace clients, because they've been with us that long, right? And we still do work for them. We still do work for their shops and stuff like that. But today you have YouTube, you have Facebook, you have IG, Instagram, and LinkedIn, or other social media, right? With print, you had to focus on, again, like we mentioned before, your color output, the color shifts, the cut sizes, the paper finish, and the weights, right? But when it comes to digital, you just look at your templates, but it's mainly your dimensions, right? For different platforms and the upload. So you just focus on that. Like what dimension does a banner on YouTube need, or what dimension does a banner on Facebook need? So it's the process. It's easier. The only thing is that for design, when it comes to digital, it's like you only have like 3 to 5 seconds, right? For print, it was like we print it and you design it enough, like cool enough where it was like people were gonna hold on to it, right? And you're hoping that they would pin it to their wall or something, right? Like for the cool poster or something. So it was like a constant marketing every time the person would see it, right? Like a reminder of whether it was an artist or something. For this is like you have to design something that's going to capture somebody's attention within like 3 seconds, and hopefully they're not going to swipe away and it's like, oh dude, like. And we realize that, I mean, based on studies and stuff, like non-professional design seems to work better, right, with clients or just with people in general, than something that's really polished, right? We go to school and we learn all these ideas to sell, and everything has to be perfect. And now we run into this thing where it's like people rather just have something that's like looks just unprofessional. But as hard as that is, but that's just a reality of what we're living in today. With digital, you're looking at more assets than you would with print. Um, because print is just limited to like your budget run. And when you're doing digital, it's like somebody could say, you know what, we want this, but instead of just doing, a design, right? Because you're only going to run one poster, or maybe you have two or three posters because you're doing, uh, a different look, a different shoot. Um, trying to find what word am I looking for where it's like a limited edition, right? Like what they would do with the comic books in the early 90s where it was like you thought you were gonna make all this money and then they ran like all these freaking covers and thousands of the same comic book just with different covers, and then you found out that you were just buying a bunch of paper that wasn't gonna make any money, right, in the long run. But so yeah, so when it comes to digital, well, yeah, they're gonna want a lot more than just one or three. It's because it's like, yeah, you could, shoot me at least 10 or 15, and it's like, oh, okay, you know what, yeah. Now level 6 is AI Infusion, right? A lot of you guys are here for the AI Infusion, and I put Canva in that too because Canva is kind of like you could put that in digital marketing, but it's like the designs are there ready to go. I remember when my daughter she's 13 now, and I remember when she told me about Canva and wanting to use Canva, and I was like, sweetheart, do you understand your father's a professional designer, right? Like, and I'm like, there's no way in God's given her my daughter um is gonna use something that is what I looked at as not being professional. And she was like, Dad, can I just use it for this one design? And it was like a thumbnail. And I was like, all right, go for it, and just like, I want to see it like when you're done with it. And like within, I would say like half an hour, she was like back at me, and she was like, Dad, like, can you look at it real quick? And I was like, yeah, sure, honey. I looked at it, and I was like, you designed that? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, dude, it looks really, really good, right? Like really good. And I was like, okay, you know what? Like, like this is actually good work, And I let her keep using Canva, and she would like bring all these designs, and I'm like, dude, this is amazing. And then yeah, so like she showed me how everything was how it all worked, and yeah, there's things that are familiar, right? That from say like Photoshop and Illustrators, different tools and the way you use them, and which made the transition from like using Adobe to Canva really simple, and just it's like time, like it doesn't even take you that long, and I'm just like, dude, this really works for me, like, and you could still really make it like your work, right? I can't really use it when it comes to like when I do car wraps and stuff. I still got to go through Adobe, which is cool, right? But when I'm saying like when you got to panel everything out and you're talking about these huge designs, so Canva right now at this moment, we're not using it for that. I still heavily use Adobe, but I do, peek here and there for Canva, and it just makes the process really simple and easy and fast, right? Now when it came to AI, I had to really look at like how does it work, like I mentioned before, can it match my style? And then I had to really use it in the real world, right? I couldn't just be like, okay, this is AI and these are the cool features that you could do with it, because with AI, like we all know that within a week or two, like they come out with something new, right? Or with a short amount of time is just advancing so quickly. But I just had to know, can I use a traditional graphic design that's not going to go anywhere, and then take AI and infuse it into it, right? And have it work just flawlessly with one another, right? If it's just going to have like this cohesiveness and just flow organically. And once I knew that it could do something that I could draw, like I could design myself, I was like, okay, cool. And once I learned that, I knew that I could teach from that place of experience and truth, right? I can't just tell you, what, like I mentioned, do this, but I've never done it. Like I'm not that, because like, growing up, I had certain teachers that taught art, and if I never seen you doing anything that was artistic, I'd question you as a teacher, because it was like, well, like Mr. Fortenberry, was like there in the artistic trenches with us, right? Like, he told us what to do, but he was running the presses as well. and then he was cutting paper like us, and he was designing like us, and so I was like, I could give honor to this. You're a righteous individual when it comes to the art world, and I just that's why like I could listen to him, right? You just got to be realist when it comes to AI. It's not going anywhere, right? Where it's going to be in a year or two, it seems a bit scary. Like, will we still exist as designers? Anyone going to need us? From my experience working with clients, and they still need us, and they still are going to need us. It just AI is just it sped up the process, man. It's just like really cool that we could just like zoom or just like okay, like the first rap that I designed and I teach on, right, how to do that rap. That one took us like a few weeks and like a few months of designing, right? Because I start off like with pencil drawing, then I take you into how to do it digitally, like on your iPad, and then we move into like Illustrator and using Photoshop and how to if there's going to be a color shift if you send out the files in Illustrator versus Photoshop. So I take you through the whole thing using a font through Adobe versus creating your own font, designing your own mural, and this is all from scratch, right? Like I tell you, I'm really big on using the number 2 pencil. I'm like, dude, we got to do it like this, and I'm there. My origins. I still draw on paper. It's like I just can't get over that. Thank you, Mr. Fortenberry. But yeah, so when AI came out, it was like it literally took me hours. Like I kid you not, it was like okay, you know what? I want graffiti style and I want skulls, right? And I want drip. But again, it's because I know the urban world, like I know the terminology when it comes to creating that type of artwork. So it was easy for me to generate AI and then take it into Photoshop. We did Photoshop and we use Illustrator. I had to upscale and well, I teach that too, how to upscale the artwork. And at that time was early on. Today you could upscale and it looks amazing, right? But I still use traditional techniques when it came. Like if you see the actual rap itself, like there's like we would use. I don't know if they use it to this day. Probably still do. They were called streaks, right? And there was like how you would mark, like construction workers would use this to mark like wood where they would cut it, and so you had like different color streaks, and then whoever was like slanging them and selling them would take like 2 streaks. Say one was blue and the other one was like red, and they would like cut it in half, and then they would put them together. So you had like a streak that was a 2-tone, right? So you could like draw, and then you could do like these 2-tone designs, and so it was like cool. So I did that, and I use the traditional. I use the Wacom, and so it's a digital tablet if you're not familiar with it, and you got your pen. And I just went on the canvas and I was just going like all crazy. So it's again, it's an infusion of AI and traditional graphic design. And I had a blast with it, man. I was like, dude, this is it. Like I could see me really, really like jumping and going 100 head first, right, into using AI in the design process. So yeah, like I knew I was going to teach it, right? That was going to be part of like the program that I was going to offer within LearnGD.com. But I had to use it, right? Like I had to use it in the real world. And I just couldn't tell you do this again and not be one that has already traveled down that road, whether it was going to come out good, whether it was going to come out bad. But I was like, I have to learn how to do this in order for me to teach. And thank God I've always had a good team, right? And when it comes to like the automotive world and vinyl wraps, I always say like us graphic designers, we're only as good as our installer, right? Our installer is crappy and they do terrible work, or they're going to make our work like look like crap. So we want to stay away from that, right? So get yourself if you're getting into the automotive world or rap, find yourself a good rapper if you're doing something that's near you, right? And so it's not going anywhere. It's either it's not going to take your job. The only thing that's going to happen is someone's going to learn it, and that person is going to take your job, right? Because a lot of companies are looking for people that are using AI, right? And but if you are the first, well, not necessarily the first anymore, but if you're just like incorporating it as a tool, a scale into your arsenal of graphic design, then you know what, you're gonna nail the job or jobs, right? And you're gonna survive. You're gonna thrive as an artist if you embrace AI. or it's going to detach you from the real world. That's just what's going to happen. Um, Level 7, teamwork. I'm really big on teamwork. Like, I really enjoy the process of teamwork as a graphic designer, right? You have to train yourself. It's like going back to AI. There's that one scene in the Matrix, right, where they hit the top of the roof, and they're at the helicopter, right, and Neo looks at Trinity and tells Trinity something along the lines, "Can you fly this?" And then Trinity calls Tank, I believe it's Tank, um, and she tells him this is a helicopter, and he's like, "Hold on," and then shoots her the info, and she processes it, and she's like, "Yeah, let's go." And she knows how to fly the helicopter. So that's like AI, right? But it's teamwork. Right? You had Neo, you had Trinity, and then you had, which I believe it was Tank. Right? I don't know, I'm getting that wrong. I think his brother's Tank. But anyways, um, so you got to go at it alone. Like, once you find yourself, it's like you just got to get out there, right? But now where the teamwork comes in, like myself, thank God I had Heather, or I have Heather, right? And we still work as a team to this day, which is cool. um and at some point you're going to find yourself needing help, like especially if you want to take on multiple jobs, right? You don't want to let jobs go by, because you just don't know when that one job that you let go might have had other jobs attached to it, right? Because what you're looking at is just the vehicle in front. You don't see all the other cars that are attached to it, right? Like myself, I have a team. Like, I have Heather's like we're like each other's team. Like, we're even there, right? When it comes to the design and having like that final executive decision, right? But then we have another part of our team, which is um, people that I met when I was going to college. Remember, I mentioned that before. Heather wrote a book called Della's. It's a children's book, Della Montrose, right? That's a character, the main character. And so she wrote the story. And I have like two of my main artists that I go to, Ivan and Steven. Steven had done children's books, so I was like, okay, it's a perfect fit for him. So I presented the story to Steven, and I told Steven, would he be interested in doing the artwork for this? And he read it, and got back to me. He was like, Louis, yeah, definitely. I love the character, and I could design the characters. So Heather and Steven created that IP, right? Again, that's as teamwork. Ivan and myself were working on other pieces of property that we're developing ourselves, right? So that's our main foundation there, right? So when we go elsewhere, like Della, when we did the animation, when we would breathe life into that character in that world, we hired a team to do the animation for us. So Heather wrote it, Steven drew the characters, and then we handed it off to a team that brought it to life, right? So that's a teamwork that you have for a project like that. When you have a team, it allows you to move faster. It allows you to get things done. Maybe like myself, I draw. Like Steven and Ivan, like they're like amazing in what they do when it comes to their drawings, and I'm always amazed at what they do. So I'm like, why am I gonna sit here and have to do concept after concept after concept when it's like I have them, right? It's about creating a group of people that are aligned with the same vision as you, right? Something that we hear a lot, right? Like, you have a vision and you want everybody to be on that same track. And I know, like, when it comes to Heather and I, our likes, obviously we're married to each other, are so alike, right? We're so like our dark humor, the dark comedy that we like. We're so similar when it comes to that it's like so funny, right? It's like, oh my God, like I was just thinking that. It's like, no way, you know. But so we know that our foundation is going to be solid. Our ideas, we're going to bounce off of each other, and we're going to be able to grow from there, right? Level 8 is monetization, right? How do you take everything that you've learned, right, and how do you monetize it? Yeah, you could sell like your services, your products, and but let's say like you get into YouTube, right? I know when we launched our channel, we hit 1,000 subscribers like really quick. Okay, like so you have your services you could sell on there, and you have your affiliates, your sponsors, you have products you could sell through there, which are like your hard copies. You could sell subscriptions, you have your community memberships, which becomes like a friendship, right? And you had your ad content that gets monetized, which is like your social media, your YouTube. Uh, the one thing I'm big on is your e-products, right? Programs, courses, lessons, lectures, and ebooks. What I feel is like you have to build something that's like that, where you could sell a product, not a physical product like a hard copy, because then it's going to cost money to produce it, and depending on what you're selling, then you might have to stock it in your house, or get rent out a piece of a warehouse, or like a storage place, and just fill it up there. But it has to be like a digital product that you have. I believe that we all have something. This is what I teach my students within LearnGD.com, is that we all have something that we could sell. Something that allows us to help people, right? If you're selling something that's going to transform people's lives, that's the best thing to do, because it's really like your heart's behind it, right? I look at like certain family members I have, right? They've worked in a certain industry for so many years, right? They got like 30 plus years, 40 plus years in a certain business and a certain field. And I always looked at them and I always wondered, like, like they could actually write a book, even a self-help, uh, and they could sell it, right? And then you start creating your videos, right? You start putting videos out. If you want to do YouTube and you just like talking, you like getting in front of the camera and just like putting stuff out, then yeah, you could just go for it there. But you have to find something that you're familiar with and something that you have a passion for, right? And once you have that, then you could turn around and monetize it, right? By selling it. And you're selling, but at the same time, you're helping people. That's the whole idea, right? You're transforming. Your knowledge and your wisdom is transforming somebody's life, right? So level 9, we're almost at 10, man. Level 9, self-promotion. Now, I could only use myself as an example. And I know when we launched LearnGD.com and we had wrapped the vehicle was worked in many ways, right? I designed it because that was going to be what the course was based on within the program, right? The lecture and lessons were all going to be based on the vehicle, like I mentioned before. The many steps, and you could go to learngd.com and see everything you would learn within that program. But how was I going to push that out, right? In a way that's not like I mentioned, I'm not like, oh yeah, go, 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 go. Like, but it had to be a way that I'm giving you something that is going to benefit you, right? That's going to transform your business or your life. And it was a way that we had done before, right? We had launched this magazine a few years back. And so we relaunched it with the car on the cover. And there was like all these nuggets we gave away within that magazine, right? Free. It's free. You can still find it out there. And so that was one way. And then working on a documentary is like what I teach. It's a business and a documentary, and they're just merged into one. So I call it a documentary, a business documentary, and it's fun, right? It's a timeline of your business, your career. For us, it's Heather and I, and she narrates the majority of it. Because I wanted it to be her perspective, right? So we wrote it, and she did the voiceover to it, and we just shoot like the talking roles, the B-roll, and then we have just different footage. We have photos, and yeah, so that's another way of promoting, right? Of self-promotion. Anything that's written, you have storytelling, you have the audio, you have the video, and you have the graphics, right? Whether it's a free digital download or it's just slapped up on YouTube or any other social media platform, and it plays there, right? And again, it's because you've learned all these different levels, right? You learn graphic design, you learn digital marketing, and you have all this knowledge and wisdom now that you could turn it back on yourself, right? So at this point is like we've come full circle, right? If you're familiar with the hero's journey, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, so that's where we find ourselves, right? In doing the self promotion. But like I said, like I've never been big on like talking about myself, but like you have to, like you really have to, because you get to a point in your career where it's like how are you going to win people over if they never seen what you've done, right? And the thing is that a lot of you have like you'll get to a point in your career where there's like you have a lot of nuggets, right? A lot of wisdom of whether it's of time and just that knowledge, right? And if you just got one project, just use it over and over. It's like when you listen to motivational speakers, right? And they talk about like one thing over and over. You just know how to say it in many different ways. And you're just like, why do I keep listening to this person? Let's do a quick recap. Our level 1 is being that artist, right? Being that storyteller, and through graphic design, AI, and storytelling. And level 2 is learning the traditional graphic design, right? That's just the fundamentals of design, your fonts, your colors, your images, right? Then is learning and offering printing services and merch. And then level 4 is learning and offering photography and video services. And level 5 is offering digital design and marketing. Level 6 is offering AI infused graphic design. Level 7 is creating a team, building a team, teamwork. And level 8 is how to monetize all of your gifts, all of your nuggets that you've learned. Level 9 is self-promotion. And then we've come to level 10, building your empire. So you take all of those levels, everything that you've learned as a graphic designer. Now you start working, you start developing your own IP, like your own projects, right? And once you do that, it's like, I feel that every designer needs to know that, you know, at that point in your career, like you need to do that. Like you really, really need to do that. And some of you may say, okay, you know what? I want to learn the mediums when it comes to graphics and design, but I want to do it for myself, for my own projects, right? Because if I knew everything I knew when I was like in my early 20s, I would have just focused on my own projects. Like I would have focused on me doing my own thing and getting my stuff out to the world. But I had to really, really work and dig deep into learning, right, the mechanics of graphic design and digital design. And once I gathered all that knowledge and all that wisdom, then it was like, okay, you know what? Now I could do it, right? But thank God for AI. It really, really speeds up the process. You know, doing our own IP, both Heather and I, right? Because she writes like children's books. So we're able to take like her children's books and convert them into animations, right? So that was like one of the things we were able to do. We were able to do focus on our documentaries, our interviews, and just our storytelling, right? When it comes to like what we have, it's called Theaters Burning. And we're able to really, really say, okay, you know, we're going to throw ourselves into this. And once you reach that point and we're looking at it and we're like, okay, it's time to get back, right? It's time to get back and say, we've learned all of this, but you know, what can we offer other people, right? And that's when we launched LearnGD.com, right? And again, it's you know, we teach graphic design, we teach AI infused graphic design and storytelling, and that's what we feel are like the powerful parts when it comes to you know, working on creating your own media department, right? That's the whole idea behind LearnGD.com, is that it's the idea of saying, okay, you know what, I have all these things that I want to put out into the world, whether you're a corporation, a small business, or you're just a solo person, right? A brave person, and you have all these ideas, and is creating this media department for just everybody that wants to take a part in it. Because I truly believe that that's where businesses need to go today, is to have an internal media department, right? At the same time, like we teach, but I also, you know, Heather and I, and you know, we have a team that offer services for businesses, and this is a subscription, right? It's called trillingextra.com, where we do the graphics and the media design for companies. So it's like having a virtual media department. But with LearnGD.com, it's like we teach you exactly what we do and what's worked for us in our career. Take everything you've learned and applied to working with clients and customers and use that and focus it inward to yourself, meaning find your passion project. I truly believe that we get into this as artists, not for others, but really for ourselves. You do have to have a heart to help others. However, at some point in your career, you have to get on that digital stage and turn the spotlight on yourself. That's exactly how I feel. I truly believe that we all have that passion to create something, right? Some of us, like I tell my wife, you're just an artist with being a mother, right? You're an artist with being a wife, because there's that want in your life to create something, right? And you bring it to life. And I liken it to everything that we do. Once you have all of that knowledge, you have to say, okay, you know what? What am I going to do? Like, what am I going to put out into the world that has my signature on it, right? Like I mentioned for myself, my passion is film. I love writing, so I look at it as like, how am I going to get my words out into the world, right? I say, okay, you know what, like I could learn this, and it's going to help me over here to build my empire, right? And once you do that, you're going to find yourself in a good spot. That's why I teach people and companies how to create a media department, because that's just it's a future, but it's a present. I believe that more people will find you on YouTube than or social media than they're gonna find you on your website. Like, your website's there, you should have a website. I truly believe that you need to be on social media. And then you're probably looking at me like, Louis, like, we barely found you. And yeah, thank God you did. And hopefully I'm helping you. If you wanted to get into graphic design, or if you think you should remain in graphic design, hopefully that you got your answer, and to just make it clear and blunt when it comes to how I feel about it. I do believe that graphic design is still a career that is worth getting into. I don't see it going anywhere. And even with AI, and like I told you, I've tested it, and it works. It works. Um, and it works in a way that you could take multiple jobs. I believe that it's relighting, breathing a new life, right? Regenerating careers, like as designers, because maybe you hit like a certain wall, right, or glass ceiling, and but now you know what, like, the traditional graphic design, the fundamentals. So you use AI, and hey, you know what, like, you're that much ahead from somebody that just is like stubborn in using the traditional ways, and they will not use AI. Well, guess what? Maybe they were moving, ahead of you fast, but because you're using AI now, and you just zip right by them, right? And if you're just using AI, I highly suggest you learn traditional graphic design, and you have to jump into the fundamentals. Trust me when I tell you that I'm not a fan of a lot of the rules that come with the design world, and a lot of, like, there's rules, and I get that we should follow a lot of them because it just make your design work. But it's those people that, like, they just won't move from them. Like, and the moment that you break away from them, they're like, oh my God, like, you're doing it wrong, and you should not be doing it like that. And a lot, you find a lot of them on like Reddit and stuff. And like, I'm on Reddit, but I show my work. Like, I show, whether you like my work or not, like, I show my work. And all these people that, like, they have like their opinions, they show none of their work, like none of their work. And they get mad because I say, like, I'm 30 plus years in design, and what am I supposed to say? I do have 30 plus years in design. But yeah, you gotta jump into it. Like, if you want to do graphics, I truly believe that it's here. It's gonna be here for a while. And once again, please visit the link. It's at learngd.com, and just click on it, and it'll take you over to our playbook. It's not like a big old book, so don't get scared away and think, oh, you know what, like, it's this big old thing. But if you have questions, just leave them in the comments. And yeah, when I have time, and my schedule opens up, I'll for sure, not for sure, I don't want to say for sure, but I'll do my best to answer them. But if you want to see some of my credentials and see some of our accomplishments, because I would not be where I'm at today if it wasn't for my wife, my mother, and my daughter that keeps motivating me, and she's 13 years old, my 3-year-old son, that he just loves spending time with cameras as well, and like my daughter, and I'm like, oh Jesus, I got 2 other artists, but hey, I'm telling you, and but that shows you. I'm gonna end with this for sure. I'm gonna end with this for sure. But see, this shows you my 13-year-old daughter is doing graphic design, and I literally would put her in an area of a professional at this point in her life. She's been doing graphics. She started with her video stuff early on, but we didn't put anything out there because she was really little. So if she's doing it, I really, really feel that there's a big future still for those that want to enter the graphic design industry, multimedia, um, digital marketing, and but learn your storytelling. Learn to tell a good story. All right, man. I'm Louis Armenta DeLombre, and visit me at LearnGD.com, and that's right there on the screen. Or if you're just listening to the audio, it's LearnGD.com. That's LearnGD.com. I'm Louis, and if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe and give me a thumbs up. Now let's jump into exactly why you should listen to me and what is it that I do. Again, 30 plus years in graphic design. I started off by doing a semi truck, and my father had bought a semi truck and a truck and trailer. And, if you're familiar with that business, you need to show your business name on the truck along with your CA number and the city and state you're in. So he needed that done. He was going to go get like stickers. But I remember he looked at me. He was like, "You want to give it a shot? You want to do the lettering on the truck?" And I was like, "Yeah, definitely. Come on, like." And he went out. He got the plexiglass and he got some paint. And I just told him to get me a drawing board, and I went for it. I did the lettering. But when I got to the painting part, it was just difficult because it just with the brush and the paint just not meant to go on to plexiglass, right? And so I was struggling, so I had to start dabbing the paint, and it took like forever. And I remember my dad laughing at me like, "Oh my God, you're still working on the same side of the truck." I was like, "Yeah." And eventually I finished it. He took it out, hit the freeway, and the letters started peeling off, the numbers and letters. So he had to eventually go out and get stickers, right? But that was my first taste of saying, okay, you know what, I'm doing work and I'm getting paid for something that is out there, right? It's on a vehicle, it's moving, and I just thought it was amazing, right? From there, I hit high school with graphic design, and this is very, very pivotal in my career because it wasn't only like pencil design. We did the digitizing of the artwork. I shot and developed film. I burned the plates. I ran the printing presses. I chose the paper stocks. I cut the paper, and I prepped everything for delivery. I was around 15, 16 years old running my own business. I remember Mr. Fortenberry. You guys will hear a lot about him if you tune into other videos that we're going to release. One of my mentors, not only as business, but also became like a father figure to me when I was really young in my teenage years. I remember he told us, you know what, you guys design and print your business cards, and I want you to go out and look for small businesses, because I went to John Marshall High School. Show you a picture of that real quick. A lot of you guys, if you're familiar with it, it's come out in movies like Grease and other TV shows, and a lot of celebrities have gone to that school, graduated. But there's a lot of businesses around that area. So he told us, get out there, tell them your students in school, and try to get yourself work. So I didn't listen, but he went out and got work for me. And so that was a real blessing. Then I hit college. I studied graphic design, video production, and animation. And my first job, I entered as a junior graphic designer, handled offset to large format printing, packaging, trade shows. And I launched a media department where I wrote treatments, for corporate videos, commercials, and I handled all the filming, the editing, and at that time it was DVD authorization, right? Basically, I was like creating the DVD, the menu, just um, the design of everything that goes into it, right? If you pop in a DVD or Blu-ray, that's exactly what I had to do. It was really cool. It was chill. And then I launched my own business, right? And I remember telling Heather, you know what? I think I've reached a place in my career for working with someone and going to school. So I was like, I'm dropping out of college. I had other issues going on with my father, so I just dropped out of college and I found a printer and I was like, okay, you know what? This printer handles high volume. It's offset printing. They're not digital printing. We're going to get into that. But I knew that I could present myself professionally, right? And so we launched our own business. And our first customer was a friend of my father. And he worked with classic cars and classic car parts, anything from hot rods to lowriders, right? He needed business cards. And I told him, you know what? I'm launching my business and really appreciate your uh, so you can be my client or just spread the word around, right? And he told me, so you design business cards? I was like, yeah, I design business cards. And he's like, but where do I get them printed? And I was like, I do design and print. He was like, oh no, that's perfect, because the other guy I do work for, he designs them, but then I have to take them elsewhere to get printed. And I was like, all right. So I designed, I think it was like 8 concepts. It's early on, so you're starting 8 of them is like crazy. For now that I think of a business cards today, you'll get like 2 or 3 concepts. But yeah, I did that. He approved one of them and I hit the scene. But this is where preparation meets opportunity, right? I got the concepts that I had, laid them out, put them into a 3-ring black binder and a folder, and that was my portfolio, right? And the next thing is my childhood friend that I went to high school with. He had gotten a job with Louis Armenta Cadillac. He was working for GM, and he just happened to go by the house, and he wanted to see how the family was doing. So we started chopping it up, and he was telling me about his job, and I was telling him, yeah, I launched my business. He was like, what do you do? I do graphic design and printing. And he was like, do you have anything to show me? And I was like, yeah. I showed him that, those business cards that I had done for my father's friend. Mind you, had like an old school car on the business card. And he told me, he goes, so you do work like for the auto industry? Yeah. I was like, definitely. I could do work for the automotive industry. And he was like, you know what? I want you to do work for me. And he pulled out right there and then, right, we're outside. He pulled out a brochure that his GM had, Cadillac had. And he said that, I want something like this. I was like, okay, you know what? That's cool. Just like shoot me some pictures, some high res photos, and how to do the rest, right? And yeah, I designed it. And at that time, like we'd present it on like foam board, and it's like all black. And I cut that down, and I just sprayed mounted it on there. And I had this huge portfolio, and I, placed it into the portfolio. And it's like those huge gigantic ones where it's like almost as like you could place it on the floor and it's on your hip, and it's like leather, and it has these huge, has like these huge zippers on it, and it has this big old handle like in the center of us, or carrying it like and yeah. So I took that, mind you, it was a tabloid 11x17 with a half fold, right? So when it's a half fold, it becomes an 8.5x11, and that was exactly what I took. And so I pulled that out of this big old thing, and we got to the dealership, and he introduced me to I think he was the owner, but he was general manager. And I pulled it out, presented it to him, and yeah, he looked at it and he was like, "You designed this?" And I was like, "Yes, sir." And he was like, "This looks really, really good." And he looked at my boy, and he was like, "All right, go ahead, pay the man." And he just turned around, and he looked at me. He was like, "Thank you," and he went his way. And yeah, I got paid. I was just like, whoa, like this is so cool, And like I said, it was like early on. We had just launched our business, and we're gonna get into the portfolio part of becoming a graphic designer. But all I know was that one piece that I designed for Cadillac, I went ahead and I just like spread the word when it came to what I did when I got that job, and the rest is history. From there, we started to offer photography and videography services, right? So Heather always had a passion to do photography, and I was already moving into the entertainment industry, and had certain clients that needed CDs because we're still like heavily focusing on designing CDs and pressing them. And the whole campaign that would go around the actual promotion of these artists and their music. Um, and I had spoken to Heather, and I was like, you know what, babe, and looking at her other artwork that she had done photography wise, and I told her, you know what, we should start offering this. When she was little, it was something that she wanted to do, and her father had wanted. There was a movie called La Bamba, and they were looking for old cars, and her father had a 1957 Chevy that he wanted to see if they were going to use it right, and they needed photos of the vehicle though. So Heather, her dad told her, you know what, please take pictures of the photos. Bought her a disposable camera, and she took photos of it. Her dad developed a film, and she says that her dad looked at her and said, you know what, Heather, you're really good at taking photos. This may be something you should do in the future as you get older. And so that seed was planted within her. So we fast forward, we hit high school, and for our prom, instead of being over there like with our friends and stuff, Heather was like, because we were like in this nice, like really really cool hotel in downtown Los Angeles, right? And she was like, Louis, can we go over here so I could take pictures of you and stuff? And I was like, yeah, sure, cool. And she's like telling me pose like this and like that. And we're young, man. We were like 18 years old at 17, 18. I don't know. I think 18. But so she already had that in there. And then we would do gallery shows, and I would do like my artwork. And at that time I was like digital surrealism. And then she would do her photography. And she shot my mom for one of the shoots. And I was like, dude, like you really have a good eye for it still. Like, so when it came to offering that service, like I was like, dude, you know what, like we could bundle. And sure enough, we started offering photography and videography. We became successful in that, and word spread when it came to that. So early on, we were really an open book. We took whatever work we could get from anyone, except from like the corn industry or anything that resembled or was close to that, right? That clearly would say we don't do that type of work. But then we narrowed it down to 3 industries, which was really our passions, right? Both the Heather and mine. It was the entertainment industry, the fashion industry, and the automotive industry. So that's where we really put all our energy in to, right? We would still do people that are our clients, right? Tattoo shops, restaurants, and we'll get into like where you can offer your services as well. But we'd still do work for them because it was like they were with us for years, right? So at that point, we moved into doing CDs, like I mentioned, and then we would do merch, which is a merchandise to promote artists and their albums. We do bus wraps, and we'd focus on promotional and music videos. That's when we got into that, right? And music videos were just cool because it was like writing the treatment for it. And then once I'd write the treatment, then I'd film it. And once I'd film it, then I'd take it in and I'd start chopping it up. And it was just cool. Actually, one of the first music videos that I got to do, which was really a blessing, and I look back at it, and it's nearing 2 million views. But we released it in 2010, so it's been a minute, right? But so that was really cool. And then from that we moved into vehicle wraps, right? And we really threw ourselves into the vehicle wraps. That's where we found freedom to grow. And when you look out, I'll show you some of the cars we did here. But that was really really cool because the range, right? It allowed us to really really showcase what we were able to do. Everything from corporate like dealership type wraps. Some dealerships were like really wild, so they were like, like just do like these cool things. And I was like, are you sure? Because I've worked with other corporations, and they'll just shoot you a media kit and branding kit, sorry, and you had to go buy that branding kit. You could not break it, right? It was like the holy book of that corporation. And if you try to get like any trying to go all dynamic instead of just a static design, they jump on you, and it just wasn't cool, right? But some dealerships were like, just go for it. And I was like, all right, cool, we'll make that happen. And then from there, um, uh, once you hit a certain place in your career, you really see that there's really nowhere to go. I mean, unless you start working in other same industry, right? Graphic designer, but a whole different branch, right? Maybe if we were just doing automotive and entertainment, but now like you get turned on to fashion, right? So it gives you a new life when it comes to design. But once you've designed for everything you could think of, or you allow yourself to design for, you hit a certain glass ceiling, one could say, and there's really nowhere to go, right? Was in elementary getting ready for school, and it's the morning, and my mother and I are watching a news segment, and within that news segment they're interviewing an artist, and this artist is showcasing their paintings, right? Other paintings that they've already sold, and paintings that they're looking at selling, right? And I'm just I'm kind of like looking at it, and I'm just like, how is it that they've sold these pieces of artwork, right? And for the price that they were asking. And I guess my mother seen that in my face, and all I remember is that she turned and she looked at me, and she asked me, Louis, would you purchase that painting uh, at that price? And I told her, Mom, no, like I wouldn't. And then she followed up with, do you know why people buy that painting at that price? And I was like, no, ma'am. And she clearly told me, and she said that you need to show and tell in order to sell, right? And your show is yourself, and your tell is your speaking, and to sell is your brand, right? So meaning that when you show is that you need to show face, right? You need to show up, and to tell is you need to speak. All I remember is that person, and I can still remember to this day. They were talking about what the colors meant to them, right? What emotions the brushstrokes brought to the painting, and how they were moved, and what they went through at that moment, and what inspired them. And when it hangs on the wall, when people enter, and it just the energy that it brings to the owner, the viewer of the piece of artwork, right? And I remember looking at it, and I was young, so when you're young, everything is just like, come on, man, you're just making stuff up as you go. Whether the person was, or maybe it was a place of honesty, right? Like they really felt that that was the emotion that brought that piece of artwork, that painting to life. It was working for them. And I learned at that moment, yeah, I was like, all right, mom, I get it, and this is where I feel that a lot of artists, graphic designers fail, because, we're a type of people that don't, that we don't want to get out, right? Most designers and my colleagues that I talk to, and I've known since either, my early days or my college days, majority of them are from college, and they don't show face. We prefer just letting our artwork speak for itself, and in return, we struggle. Right, there is a struggle because people want to know exactly who's behind the art. And once you realize that, what, yeah, you need to show and tell to sell. You need to make that connection with certain clients, customers, and you need to build those kind of relationships, right? It's like a marriage. I'm married to my kindergarten sweetheart, Heather. And, imagine if we never would have seen each other. And I just told her one day, I just want to marry you. And she never seen me. I never seen her. And she would have been like, you're crazy, like, I hear your voice, I see you, or see your art, but who exactly are you, right? So it was like a moment in our relationship, or our coming together, that we had to present ourselves to one another. And then from there, the relationship grows, and you become loyal to each other. And that's what a business is, right? As a graphic designer, I have my clients, and we meet each other, we talk, and we begin to grow, and we build a relationship. And if you're good to them, they're going to be with you for a long time, and they're going to spread the word out to other people, right? And you're going to keep growing. Now, word of mouth, at times it's a slow process depending on who it is, right? If you get, like, you could land a celebrity or something, and they have other friends that are celebrities, well, that's really going to benefit you, right? But if you were talking about, like, you're just getting started as a graphic designer, and you're just spreading your word out, word of mouth would tend to be slow, right? It's a slow process of gathering, potentially new customers, clients. But what you have to understand that in this day and age, right, with social media, it's just a matter of fact of getting out there and showing face and talking and saying, selling yourself, right. All right, man. Catch you on the next one.